Hey everyone and welcome. If you manage Windows servers, you already know that security isn't just some feature, it's absolutely everything. And with Windows Server 2025, Microsoft is taking a huge leap forward, hardening the entire operating system right from the get-go. So let's dive in and see what makes this new release a fortress straight out of the box.
All right, before we jump into all the shiny new features, we have to start right here with the GPO, the Group Policy Object. You got to think of these as the absolute building blocks. I mean, they're really the DNA of security and configuration in any Windows domain. Pretty much everything we're about to talk about is built on this one core concept.
So here's our game plan for today. We're going to start with the foundation that actually hasn't changed, just so we know our starting point. Then we'll get into the massive new security baseline. From there, we'll see how it hardens the server from the inside and also how it protects the perimeter. And finally, we'll wrap it all up with the single most important golden rule for making all of this work seamlessly. Okay, so first things first, let's talk about what's staying the same. For years, as long as Active Directory has been around, it has always started with two cornerstone group policy objects. These are basically your factory settings, the default state for any new domain you spin up. And this slide, well, it really lays out that critical separation of duties perfectly. You've got the default domain policy, which is the big, broad brush. It covers everything in the domain with rules for stuff like password complexity. But then you have the default domain controllers policy. Think of that one as a specialized shield that applies only to your most critical servers, your domain controllers, layering on extra tough security like specific user rights. Okay, so that foundation, it's still there. But let's be real, the threat landscape today is just a completely different beast than it was when those defaults were first created. Microsoft knows this, and they decided that the starting line needed to be moved way, way forward. The baseline needed to be dramatically stronger.
So, just how much stronger are we talking about? Well, this number, it really says it all. The new security baseline in Server 2025 has over 300 new hardening settings that are turned on by default. I mean, this isn't just a little tune-up. This is a massive, ground-up overhaul designed to make your servers secure from the literal moment they're installed.
You know, this timeline really puts this whole shift into perspective. For decades, we've had the same basic foundation. But with the release of this new baseline, we've really entered a whole new era where being secure is the default, not something you have to bolt on later.
Okay, so what's actually in those 300+ settings? What's under the hood? Let's peel back some of those layers and see just how this new baseline protects the server's most critical core components. It really boils down to 4 key areas. It all starts with protecting your credentials with things like LSS protection. Then you've got secure core features enabled right from the get-go. It also tightens up security on the computer accounts themselves, and, crucially, it modernizes the crypto used by Kerberos, which is your core authentication protocol.
Now, to really get why this is such a big deal, you have to understand LSSS. This one little process, it's the keys to the kingdom. It handles all the super-sensitive authentication data on a server. If an attacker can get to LSS, they can steal credentials and just roam freely through your network. It's game over. So by protecting it by default, Server 2025 shuts down one of the most popular attack vectors right out of the gate.
You know, a lot of this hardening is just about closing those well-known nagging vulnerabilities, even the simple ones. This quote here highlights a perfect example of that. And look, this might seem like a small thing, but just preventing the use of a default password for a computer account, that is exactly the kind of basic security hygiene that can stop an attack before it even gets off the ground. All right, so locking down the server itself is absolutely critical. But, you know, that's only half the battle, right? Now let's take a look at how Windows Server 2025 secures the way it talks to everything else on your network.
And this comparison here, man, it just makes the change crystal clear. It used to be that for compatibility, you could still use older, less secure protocols for file sharing and encryption. I mean, that's a massive security hole just waiting to be exploited. But now, Server 2025 flips the script. It assumes you want to be secure, and you actually have to go out of your way to be less secure, not the other way around.
Okay, so we've got this awesome new secure by default baseline. It's fantastic. But to really get the most out of it, and to save yourself a world of pain later on, there is one golden rule you absolutely have to follow.
And this is it. Seriously. If you remember nothing else from this whole explainer, remember this simple rule. Do not edit the default domain policy or the default domain controllers policy, ever. Just think of them as your factory reset button, a known, secure state that you can always go back to if you need to. So what's the right way to do it then? Well, it's actually really simple. You find those 2 default policies and you just leave them alone. Don't touch them. For any change you need to make, like say a stricter password policy for your finance department, you create a brand new custom GPO from scratch. Then you link that new policy only to the specific computers or users that need it. This keeps your secure baseline clean, and it makes managing and troubleshooting your whole environment infinitely easier.
All right, so let's do a quick recap of the big takeaways. Windows Server 2025 is a massive leap forward for out-of-the-box security. You're getting over 300 new hardening settings, protecting you from day one. Your core systems and network protocols are locked down from the start. And, most importantly, always remember that golden rule. Create new GPOs. Don't ever edit the defaults.
And that brings us to a final, pretty interesting thought. This whole secure by default approach is a huge win for defenders, no doubt about it. But attackers, they don't just pack up and go home. So it really makes you wonder, if the OS itself is this lockdown from the start, where does the real security battleground shift to next?